Very good. Now we're going to go to the Island Crisis Care Society with Violet Hayes for 7 minutes.
Okay. Good morning. It's a privilege to be here today, and I'm with Ronell, who is the Program Director at a homeless shelter for women in Nanaimo. Island Crisis Care Society is a non-profit society that helps people in crisis. We hope to help them stabilize and move forward with their lives, especially as we look at housing options and different things that are in place for people with multiple challenges and maybe concurrent disorders. Today, as I say, we're very privileged. I want to speak, first of all, about the lack of affordable housing that is in our area. Prices of housing has skyrocketed in Nanaimo and generally on Vancouver Island. And so we're seeing many landlords that are deciding to just sell their properties and cash in. And so that leaves people not able to find a place to rent. People are calling us that have lived in their rental unit for 15 years, and then now they're not going to have anywhere to go. And the possibilities are very slim of where they can go that they can afford at this time. And landlords with vacancies are able to charge extortionate rates because there's so little available. As I said, Samaritan House is the homeless shelter for women, and it's the only one on the Mid-Island. And we operate out of a 100-year-old building. So, of course, many stairs and many challenges. We also provide supportive and transitional housing for women and rent subsidies. And since we added these additional supports in 2013 through a project with BC Housing, we've seen how beneficial it is to have the option to move the women as they need more supports in and out of these different programs. We found the positive relationships that they've built with the staff have really been helpful as they move through those transitions. And when they have a change in circumstance or need more support, we find that it doesn't seem as much of a failure when they have to accept more support. This year, we had an 82-year-old woman and a 76-year-old woman that so far have accessed our homeless shelter for the first time. We have 14 shelter beds and 6 supported units in this 100-year-old building, but we're finding it extremely challenging due to the lack of space. It's so hard to turn women away. To what alternative? To sleep in the bush? Or to go back to unsafe rental conditions, or perhaps a drug house. Women often return to violence or back to these different places because they have nowhere else to go. Very challenging times. We put as many women as we can on mats on the floor in our dining room. But in the daytime, they simply have to leave because we can't be all mixing into one another. Our building is just too small. And another area is around disabilities, the mental disorders and the addiction piece, and our ability to provide a therapeutic community for these clients. 8 women sleeping in a dormitory with bunk beds is not helpful when you might have one person who's experiencing psychosis, another who's in active drug addiction, and then perhaps a senior lady who's never been homeless before. Persistent patterns of victimization are not only a barrier to housing, but also a barrier to opportunities for healing and for moving forward. In the last 2 months, we have had 2 different clients with terminal cancer staying at our shelter because there was nowhere else for them to go. In 2012, we purchased the lot next door to Samaritan House, and we've been trying to expand and upgrade the shelter. We received about $50,000 for pre-development from the Homelessness Partnering Strategy, federal money, for capital projects, but it's no longer available for us because HPS no longer supports capital funding. We are desperately trying to find ways to expand our shelter so that we can effectively serve the women with more than just a bed. We would like to be able to offer our clients the skills and life training that they need, but we just don't even have a room to do group meetings. There have been opportunities provincially for capital funding, for affordable housing, but not for shelters. And we recognize that it's extremely important to rapidly house clients when they come in, preferably within a month, so that they have the best opportunity to stay housed. But it's very challenging to do that. But we try our best, we really do, and Ronell does an amazing job. Last summer, we were so excited when we heard that there was federal money available for us $10.9 million across Canada for the construction and renovation of shelters and transition houses for victims of family violence. So we were told to quickly get the quotes together and for the needed renovations, and much needed renovations, I can tell you. Anyway, we did that. We got the quotes together, and that was no easy feat with the busyness of the trades in Nanaimo. Well, that was in July that we put those quotes together, and we still have not heard anything. So much time and effort put in, and now the quotes are too stale to use anyway. Our society also works in Parksville, which is about half an hour north of Nanaimo. And in 2014, we were successful and received funding through the rural stream of the HPS funding. And we started a Housing First initiative. We hired an outreach worker. We were able to find leases for 5 apartments and therefore house 5 people through this program. But then, the next year, we didn't receive that funding. So then we were faced with, well, do we evict these clients who we've finally been able to stabilize? What do we do? So I'm so happy to say that we were able to find funding just through fundraising, and now we continue that process, but every year we have that struggle of how do we raise the money for this program. And as we look at the HPS funding, I'd really like to make the recommendation that for the rural stream, it's not the ongoing annual application that has to be made. We would like to see a 3 to 5 year application so that when you start a program, you're not having to backtrack and try and figure out how to put it together. And I also would like to recommend that HPS is starting to fund capital again, because that is so important to us. An investment in affordable housing is imperative, but just as important is that safe environment where women can be helped to move through the challenges. And after trauma, they may not be ready right away, but we want to help them to be empowered as the women they were meant to be. And I want to close very quickly with a comment from a client. She says, I stayed in the shelter for a week to 10 days. Little did I know that Samaritan House programs and the incredible staff and clients would be my home away from home for the next 4.5 years. This includes living at Mary's Place for just over a year, and for the past few months at Martha's Place. Mary's Place, a house in the north end of Nanaimo, is within walking distance of Walmart, a transitional housing through ICCS. 6 women share this house. I was one of the 2 people who lived in what I called the in-law suite downstairs. Martha's Place is supported housing at Samaritan House. There are 6 rooms. I am in the one upstairs. It has a small bar-sized fridge and a microwave and an ocean view. Samaritan House was a gift from God on a cold winter's day. Both Mary's and Martha's Place were and are ships in the storm of life. I am grateful to everyone involved, from the people on the board to the frontline workers and everyone in between. You will never know how much you change lives for the better. Thank you.
Very good. Now we're going to go to the island.